Welcome to the Echoes of Ihsan podcast. Today we're diving into Sahih Muslim, Hadith, Book 19, Jihad, and Expedition.
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating journey for sure, exploring the historical context, ethical guidelines, and captivating stories, that shaped early Islamic practices during military campaigns.
A lot to unpack here, for sure, from the rules of engagement and treatment of prisoners to the distribution of spoils of war, and even exploring the concept of fate, which might be new to some listeners.
Yeah, fate's an interesting concept. It highlights how property acquired without a formal war was utilized for the benefit of the entire Muslim community. It kind of shows the emphasis on collective well-being in early Islam.
We got a stack of hadiths to guide us through all this, so get ready for some aha moments.
Yeah.
As we explore what these texts reveal about the evolution of Islamic practices and principles during this pivotal period.
Absolutely. And, context is key. We'll be examining these hadith through the lens of the historical circumstances they were revealed in. Got to remember that understandings and practices evolved over time.
That's important to remember. So to set the stage, let's transport ourselves back to the early days of Islam, a time of significant change and development. What can you tell us about this period and how it influenced the events we'll be exploring?
Well, this was a period of transition for the nascent Muslim community,
Yeah.
marked by both internal consolidation and external challenges. They were establishing their identity, clarifying their beliefs, and navigating a complex political landscape in the Arabian Peninsula.
Right. That's important to keep in mind as we delve into specific events. Speaking of which, Hadith 402-92 recounts a raid led by the Prophet Muhammad against the Banu Mustalik tribe. This raid, occurring in the early days of Islam, raises some interesting questions.
Yeah, it does. This raid, which some scholars argue was prompted by intelligence suggesting the Banu Mustalik were preparing to attack the Muslims, stands out because the tribe was seemingly caught off guard. This raises the question of whether an invitation to Islam was, always necessary before engaging in conflict.
That's a really important point. It challenges the common perception that early Muslims always offered a choice between conversion and war. It seems the situation was much more nuanced.
Exactly. Remember, this was early in the Prophet's mission, and the understanding of these practices was still evolving. The concept of jihad, often translated as struggle or striving, encompassed a wide range of meanings, including spiritual self-improvement and armed defense.
So the raid on the Banu Mustalik reflects the complexities of this early period, where the lines between defense, preemption, and the call to Islam were perhaps not as clear-cut as they would later become.
Yeah, that's a really good observation. It's crucial to avoid imposing later interpretations or frameworks onto these early events. We must try to understand them within their specific historical context.
Absolutely. And as we move forward, it'll be interesting to see how these practices evolved as the Muslim community grew and encountered new challenges.
Yes, and we see a clear shift in later practices. As the Muslim community expanded and engaged in more expeditions, leaders were given more specific instructions and advice before setting out. Hadiths 4294 through 4297 offer a glimpse into this evolving approach.
So instead of the somewhat ambiguous circumstances surrounding the Banu Mustalik raid, we start to see more formalized guidelines for military conduct.
Exactly. These hadiths emphasize several key principles, including showing leniency to the vanquished, avoiding unnecessary harshness or destruction, and ultimately promoting a positive image of Islam through their actions.
That's fascinating. It suggests a deliberate effort to ensure that military actions were not only strategically sound, but also ethically grounded. It wasn't just about winning battles, it was about winning hearts and minds.
You got it. These instructions reflect a growing awareness of the impact that Muslim conduct had on the perception of their faith. They were conscious of being ambassadors for Islam, even in the midst of conflict.
That's a powerful insight. It suggests that even in those early days, the concept of jihad was being refined to encompass not just the physical struggle, but also the ethical and moral dimensions of warfare.
Precisely. And this emphasis on ethical conduct becomes even more pronounced as we delve deeper into the specific guidelines outlined in these hadiths. But before we move on to that, let's pause for a moment and let that sink in. Imagine the impact of these instructions on those early Muslim warriors, heading out on expeditions with these principles ringing in their ears.
That's a powerful image. It really humanizes these historical figures and allows us to connect with their experiences on a deeper level.
And it underscores the fact that these weren't just abstract principles, they were meant to guide real-life actions, in the heat of battle. These instructions were shaping the very character of the early Muslim community.
And as we continue our exploration, We'll see how these principles manifested in concrete situations, shaping the course of early Islamic history. But for now, let's take a break and reflect on the significance of this shift towards more formalized ethical guidelines in the context of jihad.
These ethical guidelines, they weren't just like some lofty ideals. They had real-world implications, especially when it came to the aftermath of battle and the handling of spoils of war.
That's a really great point. It's one thing to talk about ethics in the abstract, but a whole other thing to try to apply them in the midst of victory when emotions are running high, you know? And the temptation for self-enrichment is strong. How did these principles guide the distribution of spoils of war?
Right. Well, the Hadiths provide a remarkably detailed framework for ensuring fairness and accountability. It wasn't like a free-for-all, where the strongest or most influential grabbed whatever they could. Hadith 4327, for example, recounts a powerful story from a previous prophet that really drives home this point.
From a previous prophet, I'm intrigued. What can you tell us about this story and its significance?
Well, it's a cautionary tale that underscores the importance of honesty and just distribution, even in the aftermath of victory. The story, it describes a situation where some individuals misappropriated spoils of war, attempting to conceal their actions and unjustly enrich themselves. The consequences were severe, highlighting the seriousness with which these matters were treated.
Wow, that's a strong message for sure. It suggests that even in moments of triumph, there was a strong emphasis on accountability and adherence to ethical principles. It wasn't enough to simply win. The victory had to be achieved and celebrated in a way that was consistent with their values.
Yes, precisely. This story serves as a stark reminder that integrity and ethical conduct were paramount, regardless of the circumstances. It sets the stage for a more detailed examination of the system for distributing spoils outlined in the hadiths that follow.
So how did this system work in practice? What can you tell us about the specific guidelines and principles that govern the distribution of spoils of war?
Okay, so Hadiths 4328 through 4337 provide a fascinating glimpse into this system. The distribution was remarkably structured, ensuring a balance between communal needs and the recognition of individual contributions. 1/5 of the spoils were designated for Allah and the Prophet, a portion known as the khums.
Khums, right. I've heard that term before. It's often associated with charitable giving in Islam, right?
You're absolutely right. The khums was a crucial component of early Islamic financial practices, and its allocation from spoils of war highlights the interconnectedness of faith, warfare, and social responsibility. This portion was used to support the broader community, including the poor, orphans, and travelers.
That makes sense. It's like a built-in mechanism for ensuring that the benefits of military success were shared among all members of the community, not just those who fought on the front lines.
Exactly. And it reinforces the idea that wealth, even acquired through warfare, was ultimately viewed as a trust from God, to be used for the betterment of society as a whole. Now, as for the remaining 4/5 of the spoils,
Okay, I'm curious to hear how that was handled. Was it simply divided equally among all the fighters?
not quite. While the concept of fairness was central, there was also a recognition that different contributions deserved different levels of recognition. The distribution took into account factors such as the role played in the battle, the risks taken, and the overall impact of one's actions. Special considerations were given to smaller troops who might have played a crucial role despite their size.
That's interesting. So it wasn't just a brute force approach where the bigger battalions got the lion's share. There was a nuanced understanding of individual contributions and an effort to reward those who displayed courage, skill, or strategic insight.
You've grasped the essence of it. This system fostered a sense of unity and ensured that those who defended the community were properly compensated for their sacrifices. Imagine yourself as a soldier back then, knowing that even if you were part of a smaller unit, your contribution would be recognized and rewarded. That must have been incredibly motivating.
I can see how that would create a sense of camaraderie and shared purpose. It wasn't just about personal gain. It was about contributing to the collective success and well-being of the community. This system wasn't just about fairness. It was about building a resilient community, bound by shared values and a sense of mutual support.
Precisely. It created a culture where everyone felt valued and invested in the collective success, and this ethos extended beyond the battlefield. The concept of fay, which we touched upon earlier, further illustrates this emphasis on communal benefit.
Okay, let's dive into Faye. Can you remind us what Faye is and how it relates to this broader theme of communal well-being? I think some listeners might not be familiar with this concept.
Of course. Fay refers to property acquired without a formal war. such as land or resources that came under Muslim control through peaceful means, treaties, or the surrender of an enemy. Unlike the spoils of war, which were distributed among the fighters, fey was treated as a communal asset.
So it wasn't simply absorbed into the general treasury or used for personal gain. It had a specific purpose and was managed differently than the spoils of war.
Yes, absolutely. The concept of fey highlights a distinct category of acquired property and its unique role in supporting the collective good. Hadiths 4346 through 4350 shed light on this concept, explaining that such property was to be utilized for the benefit of the entire Muslim community. It could be used for various purposes, such as funding public projects, supporting the poor and needy, or strengthening the community's infrastructure.
That's fascinating. It suggests a deep understanding of the interconnectedness of wealth and social responsibility. It wasn't just about accumulating wealth, it was about using it in a way that benefited the entire community. It's like an early form of social safety net or a system for investing in public goods.
That's a very insightful analogy. The concept of fey reflects a commitment to using resources for the collective good, further reinforcing the idea of shared resources and communal responsibility. And this idea extends even to the Prophet's personal inheritance, as highlighted in Hadiths 43522 through 43504.
Wait, even the Prophet's inheritance? That's intriguing. What can you tell us about how that was handled and what it signifies?
These hadiths make it clear that the Prophet's personal inheritance was not to be passed down to his heirs like typical inheritance. Instead, it was to be treated as charity, dedicated to the benefit of the Muslim community as a whole.
Wow, that's a powerful statement.
Yeah.
It really emphasizes the idea of selfless leadership and prioritizing the needs of the community above personal gain. It reinforces the idea that leadership in Islam is about service and stewardship, not personal enrichment.
Exactly. It sets a profound precedent for how leadership should be understood and practiced. The Prophet's actions served as a model for future generations, emphasizing that those in positions of authority have a moral obligation to use their resources and influence for the betterment of society.
So from the distribution of spoils to the treatment of fey, and even the Prophet's own inheritance, we see a consistent theme of fairness, accountability, and prioritizing the collective good. It's not just about winning battles, it's about building a just and equitable society where resources are used responsibly and the needs of all are considered.
You've perfectly captured the essence of it. These principles weren't just abstract ideals, they were woven into the very fabric of their social and economic systems, shaping the way they lived and interacted with one another. It's a testament to the transformative power of faith to influence not just individual behavior, but also the structures of society itself.
It's truly remarkable how these texts provide such a detailed and insightful glimpse into the inner workings of early Islamic society. They challenge our assumptions and offer a nuanced perspective on a period often oversimplified or misunderstood.
And as we continue our deep dive, we'll see how these principles played out in specific events and encounters, bringing these concepts to life in a whole new way. We'll explore tales of captives, conquests, and even political maneuvering that highlight the human side of these events, revealing the complexities and challenges faced by those who sought to live by these ideals in a world often driven by very different motivations.
That sounds fascinating. I'm eager to hear how these principles manifested in real-life situations. What kind of stories await us as we delve deeper into this historical tapestry? I'm ready for some stories. Let's hear how those principles we've been discussing played out in real-life situations.
Well, prepare to be captivated. Because we're about to step into a world of individual transformation, strategic brilliance, and pivotal moments that shape the course of early Islamic history. We'll encounter tales of compassion, resilience, and, the challenges of navigating complex political realities.
Sounds like we're in for a thrilling ride. Let's start with the story of Thuma Biyuthal, a captive from the Banu Hanifa tribe. He was captured during a raid. And if I recall correctly, he wasn't just any captive. He was a chief, right? The chief of the people of Yama.
That's right. Thuma's story, recounted in Hadith 4361, is a remarkable testament to the transformative power of compassion and forgiveness. Imagine this. The leader of a powerful tribe, known for his opposition to the Muslims, finds himself a prisoner in Medina.
Talk about a turn of events. So how did this proud chieftain, a symbol of resistance, end up embracing Islam?
It wasn't through force or coercion. The Prophet Muhammad chose a different path. He interacted with Thuma, showing him kindness, respect, and a willingness to engage in dialogue. Despite being a captive, Thuma was given the space to express his thoughts and feelings, to challenge, to question.
That's incredible. It's like the Prophet saw beyond Thuma's current status as an enemy, and recognize his inherent humanity, his potential for transformation.
Exactly. Instead of treating him as a defeated foe, the prophet engaged with him as a fellow human being, extending compassion and understanding. It was this genuine display of character that ultimately led to Thuma's conversion.
Wow, what a powerful testament to the impact of kindness and respect, even in the midst of conflict. It challenges the notion that strength and dominance are the only ways to win over hearts and minds. It seems there's a deeper, more subtle power at play here.
You've hit the nail on the head. Thuma's story reminds us that true transformation often comes not through coercion, but through genuine connection, through witnessing the embodiment of the very principles one might have previously opposed. It speaks volumes about the character of the Prophet Muhammad and the way he interacted with even his adversaries.
It's a lesson that resonates across centuries, reminding us of the power of compassion to bridge divides and inspire change. Now, I understand that not all encounters ended with such heartwarming transformations. We also have the account of the expulsion of Jews from the Arabian Peninsula, a much more complex and sensitive event detailed in Hadiths 4363 through 4366.
You're right. This is a challenging chapter in early Islamic history, one that requires careful consideration and a nuanced understanding of the historical context. It's important to approach this topic not with judgment, but with a genuine effort to grasp the realities of the time.
I agree. It's easy to impose our modern-day perspectives and values onto historical events, but that can lead to misunderstandings and oversimplifications. So what can we glean from these accounts without falling into those traps?
The key is to remember that these events unfolded in a volatile region, marked by shifting alliances and, deep-seated rivalries. The Arabian Peninsula was a melting pot of cultures, religions, and political ambitions, and the Prophet Muhammad navigated this complex landscape not only as a religious leader, but also as a political strategist.
So the expulsion of the Jews was likely influenced by a combination of religious and political factors, making it difficult to isolate a single cause or motivation.
Precisely. While the Hadith mentions the Prophet's vision of an Arabian Peninsula united under Islam, there were undoubtedly strategic considerations at play as well. The expulsion of certain tribes, while deeply unsettling from a modern perspective, must be understood within the context of consolidating power and ensuring stability in a highly contested environment.
It's a reminder that history is rarely black and white, especially when dealing with events from such a distant past. We need to be cautious about imposing our own values and judgments on those who lived in vastly different circumstances.
Absolutely. The challenge is to engage with these accounts honestly, acknowledging the complexities and grappling with the ethical questions they raise, without resorting to simplistic interpretations or anachronistic moralizing.
Okay, moving on. Let's shift gears to the Battle of Hunain, described in Hadiths 4386 through 4392. This battle, fought shortly after the conquest of Mecca, offers a glimpse into a pivotal moment in early Islamic history.
Indeed. The Battle of Hunain provides a fascinating study in both the strengths and weaknesses of the early Muslim community, highlighting their resilience as well as the dangers of overconfidence.
Okay, set the scene for us. What made this battle so significant, and what challenges did the Muslims face?
Fresh from their victory in Mecca, the Muslim army, now larger and more confident, marched towards Hunain to confront the Hawazin and the Kif tribes. These tribes, known for their strength and military prowess, posed a formidable challenge. However, the Muslims, emboldened by their recent success, underestimated their opponents.
So it was a classic case of overconfidence, of assuming that past victories guaranteed future success.
Yes, and they paid the price for it. The initial assault was met with fierce resistance, and the Muslim ranks were thrown into disarray. It was a humbling experience, a stark reminder that even the most righteous cause could be jeopardized by arrogance and complacency.
But they rallied, right? They didn't just crumble under pressure.
Absolutely, and that's what makes this battle so compelling. It reveals the true grit and adaptability of the early Muslims. Despite the initial setbacks, they regrouped, re-strategized, and ultimately secured a decisive victory.
It's a testament to their unwavering faith and their ability to learn from their mistakes. They didn't let the sting of defeat paralyze them. Instead, they used it as fuel to push forward with even greater determination.
You've captured the essence of their resilience. The Battle of Hunain stands as a reminder that setbacks and challenges are an inevitable part of any journey, even one driven by faith and conviction. What matters is how we respond to those challenges, whether we allow them to break us or to refine us, to strengthen our resolve.
And this theme of resilience, of adapting to unexpected circumstances, is further exemplified by the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, recounted in Hadiths 4401 through 4410, right?
You're spot on. The Treaty of Hudaybiyah, initially perceived by many Muslims as a setback, a compromise that favored their opponents, the Quraysh of Mecca, proved to be a strategic masterstroke that paved the way for future success.
Can you remind us of the details of this treaty and why it initially seemed unfavorable to the Muslims?
In 628 CE, the Prophet Muhammad, along with a large group of followers, set out for Mecca with the intention of performing the pilgrimage. However, they were met by a strong Quraysh force, determined to prevent their entry. Negotiations ensued, resulting in a treaty that included seemingly unfavorable conditions for the Muslims. They agreed not to enter Mecca that year, to return any Meccans who converted to Islam without permission, and to enter Mecca unarmed the following year.
So on the surface, it appeared the Quraysh had dictated the terms, and many Muslims were understandably disappointed. They had traveled a great distance only to be denied entry to their holiest city.
Yes, but the Prophet Muhammad, with his characteristic foresight, recognized the long-term benefits of this seemingly unfavorable agreement. He saw an opportunity to secure a period of peace, to consolidate the Muslim community's strength, and to expose the divisions within the Quraysh ranks.
It sounds like a classic example of how patience and strategic thinking can lead to long-term gains. Sometimes taking a step back, even if it feels like a concession, can create the space for greater progress in the future.
Exactly. The Treaty of Hudaybiyah wasn't just a tactical maneuver. It was a testament to the Prophet Muhammad's leadership, his ability to see beyond immediate setbacks and to navigate complex political realities with wisdom and foresight.
What's amazing is how this treaty, initially perceived as a defeat, ultimately laid the groundwork for the peaceful conquest of Mecca just 2 years later. The Quraysh, weakened by internal strife and unable to honor their commitments, found themselves outmaneuvered, paving the way for a decisive shift in power.
It's a powerful lesson in the unpredictable nature of history, and the importance of strategic patience. Sometimes what appears to be a loss can, in the long run, become a catalyst for even greater success.
So from the personal transformation of Thumma to the strategic brilliance of the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, we've encountered a wide range of stories that shed light on the complexities of early Islamic history. We've seen how the early Muslim community navigated a world of conflict and change, guided by their faith, their principles, and the visionary leadership of the Prophet Muhammad.
These accounts offer a glimpse into a world of triumphs and challenges, of individual conversions and societal shifts. They reveal the human side of those pivotal events, reminding us that history is not just a collection of dates and facts, but a tapestry woven from the lives of real people.
It's been an incredible journey, exploring the ethical guidelines of warfare, the intricacies of spoil distribution, and the captivating stories that bring those principles to life. We've seen how the early Muslim community, in all its human complexity, sought to establish a just and equitable society amidst a turbulent and rapidly changing world.
And as we wrap up our deep dive into Sahih Muslim, Book 19, we're left with a deepened understanding of the complexities of war and peace, victory and defeat, and the evolution of Islamic practices within their historical context. We've explored the tensions between idealism and pragmatism, the challenges of maintaining ethical conduct in the midst of conflict, and the enduring power of compassion and forgiveness to transform hearts and reshape destinies.
As we reflect on all that we've learned, it's impossible not to wonder about the relevance of these ancient texts to our modern world. In a world still grappling with conflict, injustice, and the struggle for peace, what lessons can we draw from these historical accounts?
That's a profound question, one that each of us must grapple with individually. As we navigate the complexities of our own time, may we draw inspiration from the stories we've encountered, from the examples of courage, compassion, and resilience that have echoed through the centuries. May we strive to embody the principles of justice, fairness, and understanding in our own lives, recognizing our shared humanity and working towards a world where peace prevails.
It's been a thought-provoking exploration, reminding us that the echoes of Ihsan, of excellence, compassion, and striving for the best are all around us, waiting to be discovered and reflected upon.
May we continue to seek knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, and may we find guidance and inspiration in the stories of those who came before us as we navigate the challenges and opportunities of our own time.